Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We've got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live, guys. This is your weekdaily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis. And in today's episode, we have quite a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about where I've been, the fact that we are back, and wish you guys and hope that you guys had a very Merry Christmas. Yeah, as you guys know, we've been gone for about a week and a half. This wasn't announced. You may not have seen the announcement, but this was an announced break. We actually gave the entire company off, which would be myself, my wife, and Malachi, our other employee. We gave ourselves about a week and a half off for Christmas, paid time off. We want to make sure everybody had time to spend with their families. Really had a lot of fun on Christmas. If you follow me on Twitter, you can find the link for that down below. Then you'll see our Christmas tree and all the presents under it. We had an awesome first Christmas as a family, and the reason I'm working from home tonight is because last night we went to see some family. They're about 2 hours away, so we got home at like 1:30 last night, and true story, I was holding my son, and we were, around a campfire. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's not going to focus, but I fell on an ember and burned the crap out of my pinky finger, and it hurts, man. It hurts. It feels like whenever I cut the tip of my thumb off when I was a kid, and it feels the same way. It feels like the nerve endings have been singed. I don't know. Maybe if you want to see weird stuff, like, I don't know, follow me on Twitter. Maybe I can get a picture of it, but it's singed. Like, there's an actual scar on my finger from that last night. But anyway, we had a lot of fun. We got home late, and so we're working from home today, but we're probably going to be working from the office tomorrow. I'm working on getting a really nice home studio set up so that when I do this, the microphone doesn't sound like this, and the background doesn't look like this. Hoping that I can get that done by the end of the month. But more things are coming by the end of the month because we have some big announcements for Club DeFi coming out soon. They're not coming out today, but relatively soon. We've got some big announcements for Club DeFi. Some work has been done over the break a little bit. And I'm really, really excited for what you guys are going to get. Oh, man, I am so pumped. And as you saw in the title, guys, yes, winter has come. Not just literally as in the season, but also metaphorically. Metaphorically, here in the cryptocurrency world, winter is here. And I really want to zone in on why that's a good thing. Because, you see, I want to use a farming analogy. If you're a farmer, winter kind of sucks because you can't plant anything and there's not much to do. But what farmers do during that season is that they build. If they need to clear more land, then they'll work on clearing more land. If they need to build a new barn, they'll work on building a new barn. If they need to go and increase payroll, they'll go and increase payroll. If they need to make an investment, they'll go and make an investment. If they need to raise capital, they'll go and raise capital. If they need to go get some new seeds with a new kind of genetic hardening to a certain environmental factor that could become an issue next year, then they go and do that. But what farmers do during the winter is they build and they prepare for the spring. And that's where we are. Literally, if you're a farmer in the Northern Hemisphere, but also metaphorically in the United States, in the European Union, in the West, wherever you have access to crypto, wherever you are tuning in from anywhere in the world, you are in the exact same position as the farmer. You are in a position where you need to make the most of one of the most important seasons. In the spring, you're planting. In the summer, you're probably harvesting, then planting again, and then in the fall, you're harvesting and preparing for that winter. But the winter, that's the time where if you're a farmer or in cryptocurrency, if you're an investor, you really get to prepare. So today, we're going to talk about not just what's going on in crypto. We're going to look at the price. We're going to look at Solana just sliding, slumping, sucking, whatever S word you want to use. And we're going to also take a look at Sam Bankman-Fried because Sam Bankman-Fried has been caught doing some very interesting things relatively recently. You guys have probably heard about his $250 million bail. I'd still like to know who's going to be paying the bill on that one so that he doesn't go to prison and jail right away. Let's go ahead and read some chat. We got some really awesome names in chat. Matanya Holmes said, hey, Jebb the main man. I appreciate that. I'm not the main man. That's the man upstairs. Really appreciate all your love and support. Looks like my camera messed up. Let me see what's going on with that. I do apologize. What in the world is my camera doing? Give me 1 second. I think I know how to fix that. I don't know why it would be doing that. Give me uno momento. Haha. That's not the camera I wanted. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. I don't know why. What is going on? There we go. Did that fix it? That fixed it. Don't know why that happened. Anyway, do apologize for that. As we were saying, we also got Mike Lowry in chat. What's up, man? Really appreciate seeing everybody here. Flavio Goncalves, I believe I got that right. I think I say that every time I say your name because I'm almost always confident that I butchered your name, so hopefully I didn't mess it up too bad. Richard Harrington said smash the likes. Mike Lowry said smash the likes. Appreciate that, guys. Go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already. We got Paul Gal said, hi, Crypto Jebb. Glad to see you, my friend. Good to see you, too. Mike Lowry in chat. Boom, we got Kelly Kellum in chat. Good to see you, my friend. Said happy holidays and big love to everyone. Merry Christmas to you, Jebb, and all the family and the entire community here. What's up, Kelly? Really good to see you. Really been having a lot of fun watching what you're doing over on Twitter. I'm sure Spaces getting taken off of Twitter has been a big hiccup for you. I really haven't asked you about that, but I'm really wondering how that's affected everything because you had a great Spaces over there, man. I really enjoyed tuning into that. Got Mike Lowry in chat. Guys, make sure to follow Kelly Kellum on Twitter. Got Jebb, I missed you. Dang, Jebb is still here. I'm not going anywhere, guys. I love what I do. Let's see. Kelly donated $5. Said, happy holidays and big love to everyone. Merry Christmas to you, Jebb, and all the family and the entire community here. Oh, man, Kelly, you're going to make me cry. I appreciate it. Let's see. We got Justin Eubanks in chat. Going to kind of run through this pretty quickly because I want to get caught back up. Let's see. Kelly Kellum in chat. Kelly Kellum, Crypto Mini Bike, the classic IT guy. Let's see. Who else am I missing? Yeah, I think I got all the green names. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. All right, so let's go ahead and jump on over to, you guessed it, let's go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap because, guys, we need to take a close look at what the altcoins and the cryptocurrencies are doing. Right now, Bitcoin trading at $16,640, down 0.75% in the last 24 hours, down 15% in the last 90 days, down 65% year to date. That is about to reset, of course, because year to date is going back to January 1st. It is currently December 29th, so relatively soon that will, of course, reset. We've got Ethereum coming in at $1,200. Got Binance coming in at $246. Pretty much these markets have not moved a lick since the beginning of the Christmas break that we just took as a company. So that's pretty interesting. If we take a look here at just the bear price action and turn off all our indicators, let's just look down on the 4-hourly chart. You can see, what day was it that we began our break? It was the last stream we did was the 16th. So let's look at where the market was on December 16th. It was right here. So this is what the market has done in that time. It's done basically squat. We've gone down 0.6% in 2 weeks. So that's what I'm talking about, guys, with winter. In winter, and we're just going to kind of continue the analogy here throughout the stream. During winter, everything slows down. We were coming out of our office the other day, myself and a few of our team, and we saw an annul. If you guys know what they are, if any of you guys from Florida, Cuba, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, any of those any of those states or nations for Cuba, then you'll probably know what I'm talking about. These little anoles are these little green lizards. You can look them up. They're called, they're brown anoles, and then you have the green anoles. The green anoles are native to the States. The brown anoles are invasive from Cuba. These anoles are lizards. I mean, they're cold-blooded. So we walked out of the office, and it was like 30 degrees outside, and this poor little guy, he couldn't move. He was moving so slow, and he was probably going to die, to be honest with you, this little lizard. So I picked him up, and I put him on, this little ledge with the concrete in the sun, hoping the sun would warm the concrete up, keeping in mind where the sun was going to move so he didn't go into the shade pretty soon. He could barely move. He was so slow because it's cold. We get one cold week a year in Florida, and that was it last week when it got down into the 20s at night. The 20s is -20 where some of my in-laws are from right now. Nevertheless, it's moving slow. The world moves slowly. You see the leaves fall off the trees. The trees slow down. The metabolic rate of all the animals slow down. Bears go into hibernation. Nature slows down during winter, and that's exactly what's happening in crypto. Everything's slowing down. It makes sense that there's very low volatility. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at something that everybody loves to talk about. It's called the Wall Street cheat sheet. I'm sure you've heard of this thing before. This is everywhere. But the thing I want to point out here is something that doesn't get talked about perhaps as much as it should. The Wall Street cheat sheet, psychology of a market cycle. Of course, you guys all love hope and optimism and belief and thrill and euphoria, and then complacency, not so much. Anxiety, denial, panic, capitulation, anger. I would put this market where we hit anger right here, that I would call right here. What was it? November 8th, when the news came out that FTX was going to go bankrupt and they were insolvent. Basically at 11:03 a.m. Eastern Time on November 8th, when Sam Bankman-Fried released his now famous tweet, which will literally go down in the financial history books, when they make movies about what happened at FTX. I mean, come on, guys. They made movies about The Big Short. They made movies about what's his name? The Wolf of Wall Street. The Wolf of Wall Street. They made movies about these guys. Definitely going to make a movie about FTX, and for good reason. 11:03 a.m. Eastern Time will be the moment in the movie where it goes from the, what is that they call it in drama? The rising action to the, oh crap, everything just started going down. Like that. That's going to be the, boom, the moment. The second, I can just see it now. On a cinema camera, you got Sam Bankman-Fried sitting here. He closes out of League of Legends, and then he opens up Twitter, and he presses send on that, and then the whole world blows up because FTX, a $32 billion company, just announced through Botlane 4902 Leona main that there was a bankruptcy at FTX, and $32 billion are gone, not including all kinds of customer funds. That's going to be the moment, and ever since then, I believe that's exactly where we've been. We've been in this anger moment. But when do you switch from anger to depression? Well, panic. The thing is, as you can see on the cheat sheet here, and I think this is a very accurate descriptor of markets, to be honest with you, especially crypto markets that are very, very much boom bust cycles rather than just up and to the right like the stock market. This moves very quickly until you start to bottom out down here in price. Around the anger point. So you bottom out in price first, and then you bottom out in time. Let me explain what I mean. Oftentimes in bear markets, you bottom out in price long before you bottom out in time. And so, yes, by the way, we're going to talk about, in case you're wondering, we're going to talk about the different, we're going to talk about different, how should you say, news in the news right now. But the main focus I have for today is actually analyzing the structure of this market so you can have an idea of where the market's going, what we should be doing, and why we should be doing it right now. But what I'm trying to get at here is that the market typically drops very quickly in the first part of the bear market. The first part of the bear market could be anywhere from the first half to the first 2/3 of the market, as you can see, the bear market, as you can see right here. You typically hit bottom on price before you hit bottom on time. What do I mean by that? Well, in the 2014 bear market, we saw Bitcoin drop and drop and drop and drop and drop very quickly. In the span of just over a year and a half, Bitcoin would drop 87%, dropped $1,000. Oh, wow, bother. That's a really big deal back then, not so much now. We bottom out in price before we bottom out in time. This is anger. This is depression. You get angry because it drops quickly. You get depressed because nothing's happening. Okay? Same thing over here in 2018. You get angry because the market's dropping. Not that you should, it's sin. But as far as people get angry because the market drops very quickly. And then they get depressed because the market's not doing anything. You can even be depressed up here on a plateau because the market's not doing anything. What's going to happen? People get bored. They want something to take place to keep it interesting. Well, what we've just seen is that Bitcoin has gone through the majority, I think, of that, oh crap, the market's dropping extremely quickly. It's going to bottom out. It's going to the downside. It's plummeting like a rock. It jumped out of an airplane and forgot his parachute. It's just going to hit rock bottom. Now that we've hit anger, and I would say that anger began, the anger phase began when FTX declared bankruptcy, and then you have BlockFi declaring bankruptcy, and all these other companies in the hot seat right now. Then you start getting into this depression. I love how this chart puts it. You drop quickly into anger, and then from anger to depression, you get depressed because you're trading sideways. Anger, you get mad because it dropped very quickly, and oh crap, it's all gone. Depression is where you start to lose hope because it has been down for so long, and you don't know whether or not the market's actually going to recover, and then because you have lost hope, that's where the disbelief comes in because there's no way this market's recovering because I already lost hope, and of course, we're the arbiters of whether or not the market's going to go up, right? Well, that's pride talking. It's not true. What I'm trying to say here is that we've began the transition from anger to disbelief. We call that a crypto winter. I will show you the last two. fact, you could argue there's more than two, but I'll show you the last two obvious ones that everybody would agree on. This was a crypto winter right here, and this was a crypto winter right here. As you can see, there's a few defining characteristics about them. Number one, they don't actually last that long. We're talking about maybe 10 to 15, maybe at most 20% of the total market structure. Number two, they drop very far and they get very depressing in price. You can see the market dropped and just sat down here, frozen solid for months on end in both of these cases. In this case, back in 2014-15, we sat down here for almost a year. Here, we sat down here for, 3-4 months, and then we started to rally. But keep in mind, this was a much different market than today. This was during a time of zero interest rates, or actually, excuse me, the interest rates were starting to climb back in 2018, but they were basically zero. They were having basically no impact on the economy. There was no global pandemic. There was no massive regional war that's disrupting supply chains the world over. There was no massive collapse in the stock market. There was no supply chain issue. I already said that. There were no agricultural problems where hundreds of millions of people didn't have food security. This was a very different world that Bitcoin existed in back then. And Bitcoin, as much as people like to make it out to be in crypto, does not exist in a vacuum. It has the global economy and the geopolitical zeitgeist has a huge implication on the market. So this was a very short winter. You could expect this one to be longer. The point is, we've gone through the drop. Now it's time for the winter. We've gone through the fall. No pun intended. I guess it was. That might be a lie. Now we're going to go through the winter. The question is, what are you going to do during that time? Are you going to despair? Are you going to freeze to death? Are you going to quit? Did you get so badly hurt in the last bear market and in the fall that you can't recover? Or are you going to use this opportunity to buy new farm implements? Are you going to use this time to buy another 1,000 acres? Are you going to use this time to hire 30 more laborers? Are you going to use this time to renovate your payroll system? Are you going to use this time to make new connections? Are you going to use this time to find a new buyer for your crop? Or are you going to quit because you forgot that winter only lasts 3 months? Depending on where you live, lasts a week and a half where we're from. But point is, winter is not the whole year. Winter is the opposite of the growing season. But there's work to be done all year long. You don't see farmers sitting on their hands not doing anything during the winter. That's some of the most active, busy times, so long as they're able to go out and everything isn't frozen. So that's where we are right now. And so that's what I'd really like to ask you guys. As Queen said, I am planting seeds. Are you planting seeds right now? Are you investing in your education? Are you investing in learning new indicators? Are you investing in learning about new projects? Are you investing in learning about the geopolitical situation? Are you invested in building a company if you're an entrepreneur in crypto, as I am? I'm an entrepreneur in crypto. I've been one for over 5 years now. Are you interested in growing, or are you interested in contracting? Because people don't stand still. And that's something I want you to know, because if you're in crypto and you're trying to be an investor or a trader, you're an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, I can give you a couple pieces of advice. Number one, if you're not moving, you're going backwards. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. If you're not expanding, you're contracting. You don't stand still in business. You don't stand still in investment. Market goes up, dollar goes down, you pick your poison, but you're moving somewhere. Where are you moving? That's what I would really like to hear from you. And by the way, today, actually, I do have coffee. In fact, it's in the Crypto Jebb mug. This merchandise will be coming back soon. I don't know when exactly. It's not on the top of our priority list, but tell me if you would like to have that merch back. I know some of you guys have some of the merch. Really, really enjoy it. Somebody saying my volume is low. I'll go ahead and turn up a little bit now. Tell me how that sounds. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to work on getting a professional broadcast set up here at the house so that I'm not running off of, a 4-year-old Blue Yeti anymore. So looking forward to doing that, because it's really helpful for my family sometimes to be able to work from home. Anyway, going to read a little bit of chat, and then we're going to jump into some actual TA, because I know that's what you came for. Do you play LOL, Jebb? What's your main role, and who's your main out of interest? I have so a little bit of backstory on me. Somebody said Leona main, lol. I'm glad somebody got the reference. So I used to play League almost every single day going back to middle school and high school. I played way too many video games growing up, and it was an idol in my life, and it was frankly kind of gluttonous because I don't want to build my life and purpose my life around entertainment. I don't want to build and purpose my life around money. I don't want to build and purpose my life around relationships. I want to build and purpose my life around, because this is the purpose that was given to me at creation. I want to build and purpose my life around serving the Lord Jesus Christ and preaching the gospel into all nations and sharing the word with people. That's my purpose in life. And so I realized about a year and a half ago, that the amount of hours, which was probably 10, 15, 20 hours a week that I was spending playing video games, whatever it was. I mean, I have probably over 10,000 hours in a multitude of games, which there's 8,760 hours in a year, 24/7, 365. Multiply those together, you get, or 24 times 365, you get 8,760. I put way too much of my life into video games and wasted that time. It was fun, but for what? What do you get for that? That's not purpose. Building a business isn't even the most purposeful thing you can do either. And it's not out of my sake. It's out of a calling. It's what I was commanded to do by the very way that I was created by God. So that's what I want to do with my life. So that's why I don't play video games anymore, unless I'm doing it for the sake of fellowshipping. Like, we have a Switch right here that we play Mario Kart on. I'm not against video games. I'm not like anti-video game. I don't play games alone anymore because I want to. If I'm going to play a game, I want it to be for a good reason, like spending time with my nieces and nephews or my son or my wife or something like that. Anyway, when I did play, I was a Fizz main mid. I loved Ari. I'd play Ezreal bottom lane sometimes. I really liked Warwick. Anyway, completely off topic. Just to answer your question a little bit. Your bottom target. I think that'll be a good place to start. Let's see. Your volume is lowest. Video games are not a waste of time. I'm not saying they're a waste of time for everybody. There are people that... video games are like anything. They're not inherently a waste of time. They can be a waste of time if you waste your time playing them. But they're definitely not inherently a waste of time. For example, if I'm sitting here playing a game with my wife, I am building my relationship with her. If I'm sitting here playing a video game with my son, I'm sitting here playing a relationship. Playing a game with my son, it's not a waste of time. I'm doing something with that time. But I don't want to just pour hours into a game for no reason. So good deal. Alrighty, let's go ahead and keep moving right along here. You guys asked me where the bottom is, so let's go ahead and check that out. Guys, make sure to go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't already. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Where's the bottom? Well, the good news about what I just talked about earlier is that if what I'm saying is true, that we crash and then move sideways, and that's kind of the overarching market structure of a bear market, then what that means is we've actually seen the worst as far as price is concerned. What we have not seen the worst of necessarily, we've probably seen the majority of, but not the worst, is of time and sideways movement. Remember, guys, there were 2 seasons in 2018 where the market moved sideways and did nothing, and it was broken up by 3 weeks of excitement, and it was very negative excitement. It was like anxiety-inducing excitement, where Bitcoin dropped from 6,000 to 3,000. But otherwise, you saw Bitcoin trade sideways back over here, disregarding this, basically traded sideways for 300 days straight. That's pretty much where we are right now. We've been more or less trading sideways already for like 195 days. We've already seen the majority of the drop. Now it's time for us to go sideways. That's why you look at these extrapolation boxes that I put here for the rest of the, for the next couple of years on how I think Bitcoin will go about its next bull market. And of course, there's increasing uncertainty as you extrapolate further into the future. I do think you're going to see a good period of sideways action where the market's going to move sideways, and then yeah, it might go down to $13,800. It might jump up to $20,000. But I think you're going to see a lot of very low volatility, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, this dude, Sam Bankman-Fried, found chilling in JFK Airport Lounge on $250 million bail bond. Wonder who he's playing. I wonder if it's mid, bot lane, top lane. I wonder if what his MMR is right now. Like it. Did he like demote out of bronze into wood? Like, I'd like to know. For all the league people out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. The momentary arrest of former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried can be attributed to the efforts taken by the crypto community to aid investigations and track down the whereabouts of the infamous entrepreneur. While Sam Bankman-Fried eventually escaped prison time via a $250 million bail bond, the community continues to monitor his every move publicly. Just 3 days after being released on a personal recognizance bond. A crypto community member allegedly spotted SBF chilling in a John F. Kennedy International Airport lounge. The supporting images were shared on Twitter by Lit Capital, which shows SBF sitting on a lounge chair with access to a laptop and a mobile phone. And is it just me, or does that look like a gaming laptop? Like, I wonder what he's doing. I wonder what he's jokes aside, I assume he's probably not playing a game, like League or something. I hope he's not bad enough at the game that he'd be playing with a trackpad, but maybe he is. Who knows? They said, scope my DM, ran into SBF at JFK last night. Last night in AA business class lounge. He was with his parents, FBI, and lawyers. Asked him for a pic, and he said, haha, maybe not today. Based on the pictures, other community members confirmed that SBF's location was the Greenwich Business Class Lounge in American Airlines Terminal 8, according to the primary source. SBF was accompanied by his parents, FBI agents, and lawyers. Probably catching up on all the dank memes. Okay. And then this guy over here said, subsequent image showed SBF on an American Airlines flight disguised with a beanie and seated next to a suited executive. Bro turned into Gary Vee. I mean, this kind of looks like a... This kind of looks like a, you guys, I will get up on stage and tell you about my NFT. It kind of looks like a Gary Vee moment. I really wonder what Sam Bankman-Fried thinks is going to happen. Does he really think he's going to get out of prison time? I mean, his ex-girlfriend's facing up to 110 years in prison where, you know, with how rich they are, they'll probably play tennis all day. The ending of Wolf of Wall Street kind of deal. We have such a corrupt system, guys. That's why we got to, that's why we, the people, need to speak up through cryptocurrency and through our votes and whatnot. Anyway, I just think it's in a twisted way funny to see this, because this is it's satire is what it is. It's satire. You know, the whole purpose of satire is to make fun of how stupid your society is, and that's what we're looking at right now. Is that we have Sam Bankman-Fried walking around free, not in jail, when there are people out billions of dollars. And yet you have people in jail and in prison for years on much smaller offenses. I'm not saying they don't belong in jail for what they did, breaking the law. That being said, this dude's walking around free? Are you serious? It's ridiculous. You're joking. It's sad. It really is. Anyway, let's keep moving here. So, the reason I brought Sam Bankman-Fried up there in the first place was to tell you that stuff like this really sucks the hope out of an investor. When somebody sees Mr. Palpatine over here sitting in an airport lounge, evading justice with the assistance of the FBI, because the guy that took this said that he was with FBI. So what's going on? Because if the FBI was really moving him around, I doubt they'd be moving him around on an American Airlines flight. And he had a laptop and a phone and all these different things. It's crazy. These kind of things suck the confidence out of the space. But it's not just that. There's other things that'll do the same. Public Bitcoin mining companies plagued with $4 billion of collective debt. The Bitcoin mining community took up massive loans during the 2021 bull market, negatively impacting their bottom lines during a subsequent bear market and also leading them straight into bankruptcy. Core Scientific. Speaking of, you can see these miners by their liabilities. Core Scientific sitting on $1.3 billion worth of liabilities. You got Marathon Digital sitting on $850 million, then Greenridge on $200 million, TerraWolf on $200 million. Go down the list. Argo Blockchain. This is another company that we talked about that looks like they may be going insolvent because one of their investors, I think it was a British investor from the UK, pulled out on them. These are not things that that bring about confidence in a market. Top 10 by debt to equity ratio. This is insane. 26.7. Let's go ahead and look up Core Scientific just to give you an idea of the stock price and the total market capitalization. The market cap of Core Scientific is $33 million. $33 million. At one point, Core Scientific was trading in the billions of dollars of valuation last year. When you see this number, I just want you to know what this number means. This is the ratio of how much debt they have to basically the equivalent of their market capitalization. $33 million compared to $1.3 billion in liabilities. That's where you get this number. Greenridge is $8 18 times, has 18 times more debt than it has market cap. Stronghold, 11.1 times more debt than market cap. Argo, 8.7 times more debt than market cap. That's what this means. This is top heavy. This is a dreidel. And if it's not spinning, it's crashing. And that's what this market is doing right now, is that these miners are so underwater that they can't possibly fathom a way to turn a profit without selling the rigs and bankruptcy. They can't make enough money to get out of that debt. They can't make enough money to make the payments on that debt. That's not a 30-year mortgage where they have it stretched out over 3 decades. Those loans are typically much shorter term, and they have a maturation date. And there's a lot of them, and some of them have different maturation dates. They have different levels of interest, and the ones that have been taking out over the last 6 months probably have a very high interest rate, especially considering how bad of a financial position the company is in. Who would want to loan that company money unless they know they're going to go bankrupt, and then they can lean on the federal government to bail the lender out if you're the lender? Nobody wants to loan money to a company that has a 25 debt-to-equity ratio. It's ridiculous. Who would do that? Many people. Mainly because the federal government will step in and back bad loans. That also doesn't give a lot of confidence in the market. And I'm not sharing all of these stories with you and talking this way to spread FUD. I'm telling you to be honest with you. And then we're going to talk about what we can do with this. We're going to look at the price. We're going to look at our strategies. We're going to look at what we can do. But I want you to understand why the market is down so much. You got Mr. Bankman in the bot lane down here flying around on American Airlines to God knows where. You've got the miners just capitulating, for lack of a better term. You have other bankruptcies. BlockFi is in the middle of trying to become solvent again. Its website's still up. They apparently seem to think that it's going to be able to be fixed, but I doubt it, personally. But then there's more. First and foremost, you have the price of Bitcoin. It's down below massive levels of support. We saw that Bitcoin was holding up here around $20,000, around $18,500. That was its level of support. It was doing a pretty good job holding that. The problem was, and this is what we'd been telling you guys for a long time, what I'd been telling you guys for a while, is that Bitcoin was dropping to the downside. It was setting lower highs. And then remember, if you'll remember back to this, it was only a couple of months ago. Bitcoin broke to the upside right here on October 25th with a $1.3 billion in short squeeze taking place on FTX before it went bankrupt. Market tried to rally to the upside and it crashed hard. So we have seen some price action in the very recent memory that has given the bears a lot of reason to be confident that we're staying down here. Some of that looks like this downtrend. Some of that looks like this. We were holding 18.5, and then just recently, right before the break, we rallied up to it, tested it, rejected from it. We turned former support into current resistance. When we did try to go through a rally, it is now clear to anybody who's watching the shorts that this rally was a complete farce and was probably a manipulated event. I'd love to see John J. Ray III look into this, the new CEO at FTX who's handling the bankruptcy. This looked like a manipulated movement to the upside to try and increase the market capitalization of the entire market so that FTX could offload some of their assets and maintain liquidity and hopefully not go bankrupt. It failed, obviously, but that seems to be what took place because this market rallied for no apparent reason other than a big short squeeze. There was no fundamental event. There was no technical event. Nothing here triggered this rally other than a out-of-the-blue short squeeze that started on FTX and then had a knock-on effect through the other exchanges, but it started on FTX. So you can even say that, look, this rally right here was a farce. It should never have happened. So you could almost cut it out and say, yeah, we've been in a downtrend, something like this. And now the market's just starting to get back up above it. But for what? Bitcoin's trading sideways. Been moving sideways for forever. On top of that, you look at something like the Bollinger Bands. Let's pull those up. I had to take off all my indicators there for a minute. You look at the Bollinger Bands, there's no volatility. And this is not the no volatility kind of period where, yeah, you expect there to be more volatility. This is one of those moments in the markets where you expect there to be no volatility for a while. You kind of expect to just sit down here until you've traded sideways so long that if we bring up our 4 moving averages, that you just averages, then you expect the market to just stay down here until the averages come down. I'm going to change these to the Well, it won't let me. That's okay. That'll be pretty close. You expect the market to just stay down here until all the averages come down to meet Bitcoin, and you're able to completely reestablish market structure at $16,000. You basically have to do a hard reset. You basically have to factory reset the entire market around the support level of $16,000 and $15,000 like we bottomed out at recently. That's essentially what you have to do. You have to put enough time between all of this nonsense and where we are now. And that can take months. The other things that are holding Bitcoin down, I'm going to get to the bullish stuff here in a second. I'm not trying to be a perma bear. Many people have accused me for many years of being a perma bull. And if you give me 10 years, I do not mind being called a perma bull because I'm very confident that 10 years from any point in Bitcoin's lifespan that it will be higher 10 years from today than it is now, not just because of inflation, but because of the growth of the industry. So I'm going to get to the bullish stuff here in a second, but some of the more of the bearish stuff. There is probably geopolitically the most significant conflict going on since at least the Vietnam War, probably since the Second World War going on in Europe right now. That'd be the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. You're probably tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of it happening. People are getting hurt. We're all tired of it. But it's relevant and it's important and something to pray for. That conflict is taken far. I'm trying to be sensitive here for people that don't want to hear too much about this, and also for YouTube's sake. The human toll of that conflict is immense. And obviously that's the most important thing, is the human toll. But also don't forget that there's also a geopolitical, economic, food toll. There are hundreds of millions of people right now without food security, especially next year when you don't have any of the multiplicity of good things that took place this year to counteract some of the consequences of Russia and Ukraine, two of the largest wheat producers in the world, going offline at once to support that. We had a very good year for farmers around the world, and that helped to make up for the lack of export coming from the destroyed Ukraine and embargoed Ukraine, not embargoed, but blockaded port of Odessa and the embargoed nation of Russia, which is the world's largest wheat producer. You had you had very favorable climate. You had very favorable weather the world over. You had very favorable economics as the world was starting to come out of the pandemic to be conducive to a lot of food growth. That is not going to take place next year, because one of the things to keep in mind if you're a farmer is that what happened last year affects this coming year. And what happened in 2022 with the world going into basically a second shutdown in a way that was almost worse than the pandemic, because this time it's not going to go back to normal. It never was going to go back to normal after the pandemic, but it could have gone back to the very similar model. It'll never go back to the same exact model now, because as Russia's been invading Ukraine, you also have China slowly devolving into a dictatorship, which it already was. And you have their entire manufacturing supply chain logistics ecosystem basically having to be overhauled and overseas, offshored. There's a lot of things taking place this year that are going to make next year very turbulent. That's a difficult place for Bitcoin to go into a rally. When you have an potentially escalate, hopefully peace talks, it's very likely that conflict will go on at least through the summer of next year into next winter. It's a very difficult place for the stock market to grow. It's a very difficult place for the housing market to grow. Multiple reasons. Stock market's difficult to grow because the stock market is reliant on an interconnected, geopolitically involved, globalized trade system, which breaks down when you have a conflict of that magnitude, and you have very high tensions between China and Taiwan. China probably won't do anything next year, but they might in the coming years, and people are worried about that, and they don't want to send shipping lanes through the straits right there, the Taiwanese Straits, which, by the way, is one of the most populous shipping lanes in the world, not just by people but also by cargo ships. All of those different economic factors make a very difficult environment for the stock market to rally. And when the stock market isn't rallying, people don't want to invest in Bitcoin because they want to hold on to their eggs. They don't want to put things in a risk-on asset like Bitcoin. And there's a double whammy, too. The stock market is getting hit, but now the housing market is getting hit. You're seeing housing prices slump 5 to 10% all across the nation because people can't afford to buy a $500,000 home at current interest rates the way they could 9 months ago when interest rates were near zero. Now, to have the same monthly payment on a mortgage, if you're a homeowner, you have to pay $400,000 for a home, which means that the demand for more expensive houses goes down, and the demand in the housing market starts focusing itself in on a narrower range of less expensive homes, which brings a lot of the housing prices down, which makes a difficult environment for home buyers because they can't afford a 10% interest rate. It makes a difficult environment for lenders because there's less demand and they don't have as much of a competitive advantage because people are more likely to rent or just stay where they are and not move. So there's not as much momentum in that space, not as much turnover in the housing market. So there's not as much demand and inventory. And then you also have the difficulty where if you're an investor, it's how do you justify buying a house with a mortgage if you're an investor, if you don't have the kind of and most real estate investors do not have the capital to go and drop 500 grand and buy a house in cash. They don't have that kind of money. That's not what they're going to do. They're going to get a loan on it. Might be a 15-year, might be an interest only, but they're going to get a loan. They can't afford that loan. They don't want to invest in it. So you have a stock market that's slumping. You have a geopolitical quagmire, to use the technical term, and you have a slumping housing market. You have a very strong dollar. You have Sam Bankman-Fried doing whatever Sam Bankman-Fried's doing. You have the miners in trouble. You have, God only knows how many companies have gone bankrupt and look like they might go bankrupt. You have the market sitting below what used to be support, now using it as resistance. You have extremely low volatility. You have a lack of interest in crypto because not only is Bitcoin slumping, everything else is jumping off a cliff. Solana's down bad. We're going to talk about that in a second. That's what winter looks like. So, should you lose hope? That's the question. I've laid out why it's so bad because if you're wondering, Jebb, and if you're asking, yes, I'm going to get a haircut soon. If you're wondering, Jebb, why is Bitcoin in such a difficult position? Why is Bitcoin down so hard? Why won't Bitcoin rally? Where is the rally? Where is the bull market? I'm here to tell you it's probably not going to start tomorrow, and it might not start in Q1. But some things on the horizon look good over the next 3, 6, 12 months. Here's a few. There are, in some ways, peace talks going on with Russia and Ukraine, which is potentially one of the biggest impactors of the global economy that we have. If there is peace and Russia is kicked out of everything, hopefully at least to Crimea, but hopefully also Crimea, and they are not able to annex, they've already have, but if they cede all that territory back to Ukraine, and Ukraine hopefully won't take anything but total reconquest of their territory for an answer, that would be a very good thing for the markets. You would see a massive jump overnight because every single business, I'm talking all the little mom and pop businesses to the $100 billion companies, they get more excited because the world looks peaceful. It's hard to do business in a war-torn world unless you are in the arms business, unless you're a military contractor. So the economy looks a lot brighter as soon as that peace talk happens, and eventually it will. Conflicts normally don't last this long. We're already longer than the average conflict, but the fact of the matter is Ukraine just got 5 times their tank force. They just captured 5 times their original tank force from Russia. They just handed over all that equipment. And Russia has never in the past 400 years surrendered or stopped a war until they lost 500,000 men. They have not reached that number yet, not even close. They've never once done it. Russia likes to tout itself as having a technological advantage. Their strategy has been for half a millennium throw bodies at the problem. That's a horrible strategy, causes untold human suffering, but that is the strategy and that's the reality of it. I wouldn't expect an actual conflict to end anytime soon, unfortunately. But if it does, that would be very bullish for markets. If it does, you'd likely see the effective federal funds rate plateau come even sooner than it may already be coming. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. You look at the geopolitical situation, you wait for a lot of the manufacturing that's leaving China right now to be brought into the United States and into other parts of Southeast Asia. That's going to be a really good thing for the economy. You look at the Russia-Ukrainian conflict ending. You look at the pandemic, which is still ongoing. We all just decide to live with it. Becoming even more ingrained into our society, and we just start to get used to it even more. You see the CPI continue to come down. It came back at, 7.7, so that continues to come down. You see the effective federal funds rate plateau. All of these are things that are going to happen in the next 12 months, hopefully. The conflict could last longer, but the other things are very likely to happen in the next 12 months, which will bring about a more peaceful global environment, will likely cause the S&P 500 to rally, and will likely give investors more confidence to invest in risk-on assets. That is, of course, unless China invades Taiwan, something happens to Xi Jinping and China collapses in on itself, Russia launches a nuke, or the war keeps going on. There's always a black swan, right? Or there's some massive regulation package that comes down because a bunch of lawmakers say, why is Sam Bankman-Fried running wild after he just lost $32 billion of investors' money? Time will tell. Short story, I think that you're going to see the bottom in price be relatively soon. If it's not already happened, and the bottom of time in time comes soon. So, again, massive crash, that's your anger phase. Sideways, that's your depression phase. We're starting to move out of anger. We're starting to move into depression. So I want you to be warned. If you start to feel like, oh, man. That was kind of a real yawn, not just a fake one. But I said for the purpose of fake. I know how to hold it in, the yawn in, if we're on stream. Oh, this market's getting boring. I'm gonna go like watch Netflix. I'm gonna go back to working at Burger King because Bitcoin's dead. If you start to feel that way, that's how you know when winter is in full swing. That's, you know, it's funny. The analogy just goes so well. In the spring, in the summer, the sun's out, fun's out, guns out, and you've got so much energy because you got that vitamin D being built up in you. You have energy because it's warm out. It just feels great, right? Well, winter, there actually is an increase in depression during the winter because there's less sun. Sunlight exposure is directly proportional to your mental health. So if you're a basement dweller like I was for many years, which we don't have basements in Florida, but you get the point, then get outside, get some sun. But if you're feeling that way in crypto, the same way you might feel if you're in the dead of winter in Michigan or something where it gets to 40 below, where some of my family's from, then you're probably realizing that we're in winter. What I want you to do is something that you need to be able to do no matter what in your life. You need to be able to look through the emotions and look at the facts. I feel this way, but what's real? Emotions are real. But what's actually the real fact of the matter? The fact of the matter is if you're feeling that dread and, oh, Bitcoin's at 14,000. No, Bitcoin hasn't moved more than 5% in the last 4 months. That's how you know the end is near. Winter is a season. This is not Game of Thrones where winter lasts for 10 years or however that show works. I have absolutely no interest in watching that disgusting show. But anyway, the point remains. Winter doesn't last forever. It lasts a season. Maybe 3, 6, maybe a year. Maybe 3, 6, 12 months. And then it ends, and then you see a massive rally, and that's what I think we're going to see happen. So, how do you prepare for it? Very simply, there's multiple different things you can do. Number one, invest in yourself. Invest in your education. Watch this stream. Stay on top of the news. Watch other content creators that you love. Follow Kelly on Twitter. He's got some great stuff over there. Learn more about markets. Learn more about charts. If you're an entrepreneur, make investments, but make them wisely because you want to stack cash during this period. You do want to make investments, but you want to be careful because we don't know exactly where the bottom is. We don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know how long it's going to take for those investments to mature and to grow. And we don't know how long it's going to take before we can cash them out at a profit. So make investments, make them cautiously, stay on as much cash as you can. And get yourself into that financially sovereign position so you're building from a strong foundation when the bull market comes. Invest in yourself. Number one, invest in yourself. Best way to do that is by reading the good book. You know, one of the things is everything I teach about money, as far as the technical stuff that's related to a certain technology, then yeah, that's not there. But all the financial principles to live a financially sovereign life, they show up in the Bible. They're in Proverbs. They're in Matthew, where Jesus talks about stewardship. The Bible talks about the debt holder is the slave to the debtor is the slave to the debt holder. That's an important concept of financial sovereignty, is that if somebody has power over you, then you are a slave to them. You are their servant. If you have a loan from a bank, in a way, they kind of own you. At least they own a part of you. Like your house, it's not you, but it's a big part of you. Your car. If you're a business and you have a big loan, if you're Core Scientific and you have a $1.3 billion loan over your head and you're only worth $33 million, wouldn't be that big a deal if they were only worth $33 million and they were still breaking even, but they got $1.3 billion worth of money to pay back, so they're subservient to whoever's holding that debt. Same thing with Argo Blockchain, all the other companies that have a bunch of debt. That's why as a company, we have absolutely zero debt, just so you know. We have none whatsoever. We have credit cards that we use, but we use them like debit cards. So if you want to count that, fine, but that gets paid off at the end of the month. That's how we run our company. It's very important to do that and to have as little debt as possible. There is a place to use debt. I'm not totally against debt. I've used debt before, but it's something you want to use very, very sparingly. So set yourself up with investment. Learn about the word. I'm spending a lot of time growing spiritually during this time. Because again, my purpose is not to build a big YouTube channel. My purpose is not to make a lot of money. My purpose is to serve the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's just is what it is. Also, not just investing in yourself, not just investing in technologies and in relationships and all these things. Invest in crypto. prices are great right now. We just put a bunch of money into crypto right after the drop, about a month and a half ago, right after FTX went down. We put a good bit of crypto money into crypto in a lump sum, and then also we're going to be looking at potentially doing, I'm not sure if we're going to or not, because I actually really like where our portfolio is, and I want to talk about cash here in a second, so I'm going to leave that for a second, but you can also dollar cost average. I'm not totally sure if we're going to right now. We'll probably wait until the bull market, but you can dollar cost average right now. There's nothing wrong with dollar cost averaging down here, because if we haven't hit the bottom, or if we have hit the bottom, whatever, you're buying it at 16,000. Bitcoin's going to end up going to 160,000 in the next 5 years at least. I do think you'll see 1 million by the end of the decade with the inflation of the dollar and with hopefully a restabilized global economy after about 3 to 5 years of turbulence, with potentially another conflict in the South China Sea and the entire electronics sector having to completely offshore itself from China. At least the low to mid-end chips, especially the mid-end chips. The highest end stuff happens in the United States and Taiwan. That's probably pretty safe unless there's a conflict. But the rest of that stuff has to completely move. It's a big deal. So dollar cost averaging is a great idea. Dollar cost averaging, if you don't know what it is buying on a schedule. Every Friday, every third Friday of the month, once a quarter, whatever it is, I don't care. The point is that it's regular, it's planned, it's part of a budget. You budget for it. It's not just, I'm going to go dump $15,000 into crypto. I've done it before. I love it. It's a great idea if you have the extra cash. But if you don't have just a big lump sum laying around, budget $100 a month. Budget $1,000 every week. Budget whatever it is you can afford and whatever it is you're willing to lose. Remember, this whole market could disappear tomorrow. Everything could disappear tomorrow. The whole world's going to burn up one day. So just understand that don't invest more than you're willing to lose. There's a few other principles also. As far as, do you want a dollar cost average now, or do you want to wait for some kind of confirmation the bull market starting? That's a big question. If you dollar cost average now, the market could go lower and your portfolio balance could go down. There's plenty of buys that I have that are negative right now. Michael Saylor just bought more crypto. In fact, I'm not going to go too much into it, but you can see right over here. MicroStrategy, this is yesterday. MicroStrategy has increased Bitcoin holdings by 2,500 BTC. As of 12/27, MicroStrategy holds 132,500 Bitcoins acquired for $4.03 billion at an average price of $30,397 per coin. So they're massively below on their holdings, but they're able to afford it. So my point is do you want to buy right now and risk your balance going your investment going negative? There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's not a bad thing to have your investment do that. Do you want to wait until there's some kind of confirmation that the bull market is starting, and then start dollar cost averaging when Bitcoin's jumping up to 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and it's on its leg up and it's going up $1,000 every week and a half? That's also a strategy. There are pros and cons to each. If you're one thing that you can do, and this is probably what we're going to do, is stack cash right now, because we don't know how long the bear market's going to last, so that we maintain liquidity. And then when we start to see some kind, because we've already put a large lump sum in, which would probably be the amount that we dollar cost average over the next 3 months. So I'm pretty happy with how much we've put in already. I like the price. We're probably going to stack cash and then start dollar cost averaging when we see some kind of sign that a bull market is coming. And we have a little bit more confirmation, a little bit more confidence. Then we'll start doing that. The last principle I want to share with you is this. Stack cash. You just heard me say it. During a bear market like this, especially if you have any debt, you need to be liquid. Why did Sam Bankman, let's just roll it back. Why did FTX go bankrupt? Why did BlockFi go bankrupt? Why is Core Scientific going bankrupt? Why is Argo Blockchain in trouble? Why is Three Arrows Capital in trouble? Why was Celsius in trouble? Why were all of these companies in trouble? Every single last one of them had the exact same problem in their business model. They had too many liabilities, not enough assets. That's why you go bankrupt. You don't have enough assets, you have too many liabilities. Keep your liabilities low. If you're an employer, keep your payroll low. If you're an employer or an individual even, keep your debt low. Keep your monthly payments on things low, whatever it is. If it's rent, if it's your housing, if it's your grocery bill, if it's going out and buying another car that you don't need right now, if it's, a huge expense, whatever, going on a flashy $15,000 vacation, whatever it is that you have to make payments on, whatever it is, keep your liabilities very low, slam to the floor, live on breadcrumbs. Because that's what you do during winter. You have to survive on the food you grew during the summer. You have to make it until the next summer. You don't expect for winter to last forever. You might be treading water, but that's the point. This is about survival financially right now. This is not a time for expansion in things that cost money. It's a time for expansion in things that require thought. It's time for an expansion in spiritual matters. It's a time for expansion, which that's always the time. It's a time for expansion in things mentally, in networking. It's a time for expansion in the intangibles that don't cost money. Might make money, but don't cost money. It's a time for expansion in the intangibles that don't cost money. Then when the spring comes, that's when you start deploying capital. That's what we're going to do. We're trying to grow as much as we can without spending a bunch of money. I'm going to try and set up a home set here. I'm going to try not to use a whole lot of new equipment. There's going to be a few things I need to buy, but we have enough equipment. I can set up a whole second studio here at the house for when our newborn's here and everything like that, because we're due in April, which we're 24 weeks today. We reached viability today, by the way, so thank you, God. Really appreciate that. We had a really big scare 2 days ago. Sarah fell, so we had to go into labor and delivery and get an ultrasound. But the baby's totally fine. Everything looks, the doctor used the word perfect 3 times. So as a father of a 24-week-old daughter, his life starts at conception, then I'm very, very, very grateful for that. But anyway, that isn't something that's going to cost a lot of money. That's something that I can do to grow the operations of the channel here and make sure you guys are getting great content without spending a bunch of money, because I'm stacking cash. We're holding on to cash in case this thing lasts longer than we had anticipated, so that we have that runway, which we're very profitable. So I'm not worried about a runway. I'm not saying our company has a runway, but a lot of companies do. And if you're a company like that, then you need a long runway so you have time to turn things around. Stack cash. When the bull market comes, that's when you deploy. Let's go ahead and read some chat. Let's go ahead and read some chat. Alrighty here. Financial sovereignty or nothing. Absolutely. Stop buying BTC. Oh, stop buying until BTC at 12,000. I don't know if it'll go that low as the thing. It could. It very well may. I mean, I could definitely see it going to 13.8. I don't know about 12.8. Which, by the way, I meant to tell you about this. Take a look at this. It's really not funny, but interesting. My Solana chart was actually on FTX, so the Solana chart that I all my charting on is kind of useless now. But if you go to Solana USD over on, let's just say Binance, Solana's getting hurt really badly. It was heavily backed by Sam Bankman-Fried, and while I'm not a fan of Solana, this is actually kind of sad to see. And you guys know I've been a staunch opponent of Solana for a very long time because I don't think it has very strong architecture. I think it is a project that is built on profit rather than built on good principles, but it's getting beat really bad. And for anybody who's in Solana, I really do feel bad for you. I feel bad for the people that built it and everything. It's down 75%. I mean, from all-time high, it's down, golly, it's down 96.5% over the last 420 days. Guys, this is what happens in a bear market. This is when you start to learn. This is when you learn that you got to be really careful with the altcoins. That's why. What is it? 80% of the investments that we just made were in Bitcoin and Ethereum. 20% were in Cardano. I do believe in Cardano pretty strongly. Cardano's sitting up here at 9. It's down a lot itself, but it's still worth $8 billion. I think Cardano's going to do well during the next bull market. But the fact is, Solana got whooped. And for everybody who has money in Solana, for your sake, I do hope that Solana makes a comeback. I'm not too confident that it will. All right. Jebb, what do you think of Phantom? There's actually an interview with Michael Kong, the founder of Phantom, on the channel. I think Michael Kong is an incredibly smart dude. I don't know enough about Phantom to give you my deep opinion on it. The on-chain looked really good last time I looked at it. I don't know how much adoption it's going to go under, because one thing we've learned here in this bear market is that you get 1 or 2 cryptocurrencies in a certain sector that are going to make it, that are going to survive and thrive, if you will. Tell me where that reference is from. Paul Soares Jr. Anyway, throwback to 2010. I'm not sure that Phantom is going to be one of them, just because it isn't right now. There's a bit of institutionalization going on in crypto already, and not in a bad way, but in the way that there's already some winners that the market has kind of picked, and I'm not totally sure that Phantom is gonna be one of them. So that'd be my take on that. I'm not saying it's bad tech. I just don't know if it's actually going to get the adoption it would needed. Let's see. Immediate cash outs available. Immediate cash outs available are great, but what if Bitcoin drops to $8,000 and your investment is worth half what it was, and all of a sudden you need that money? That's why I'm saying stack cash, guys. You need to have money. You need to have cash. Billionaires are made in bear markets because they've got money on the side to buy the S&P when it drops 60%. They've got money on the side to buy a house when it drops 2/3. They've got cash. Cash, cash, cash. You have options. You have options when you're sitting on dollars. You have options when you're sitting on a stable coin. You have options when you're sitting on a currency that is not going to go up and down as much as Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. And it is cash. It doesn't have the stability of the dollar yet. Now, the dollar's losing value every year, but there's a steady loss in the dollar, and the whole economy is built around it. So even though it's losing value, it's not... Anyway, I think you get my point. You need to have something that's going to not be going up and down a lot. You need something that you can use to do that. I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Let's see. Siobhan Golay said, Jebb, I was secretly watching your live stream a bit now. Very inspiring to listen to you. Merry Christmas, man. Appreciate it. Really, really appreciate all of the support, guys. Really do. Fortune favors the brave. Yeah, how's that going? Crypto.com, that's one I definitely would be interested to see what happens. If they go bankrupt, you could definitely see fresh lows. Really curious to see what their positions are looking like. Render unto Caesar's, that's true. It does talk about that. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. It's basically Jesus telling you not to evade taxes. First of all, because it's immoral, but it's also stupid. All right, guys, like I said, we have some really, really, really exciting news coming out. Jeff, do you have anxiety? I actually really like that question because no, I don't. And I get coffee jitters every once in a while. That's one of the reasons I'm getting rid of coffee, but that's not anxiety. That's just, that's like a caffeine response. No, I don't. And I was freed by it a couple of years ago by the Lord Jesus Christ, because the Lord doesn't just come to save us for the next life. He also comes to free us. And that's something even the church doesn't teach very often, that the Lord Jesus, he came, and he died on the cross for our sins to save us from eternal separation from the Father. But he also came to free us, not just in the next life of the power and grip of sin, but also in this life. He came to free us from that lack of peace. For the fruit of the Spirit is in, you can go and find this in Galatians. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against these things there is no law, is what the word says. Peace. What's the opposite of anxiety? It's peace. That peace of mind. Jesus tells us that he came to bring us a gift, and that gift is peace of mind. And this is one of the biggest testimonies that I can give you. More so than all of the time that I can go into proving that Jesus is who he says he is, because I can prove it. Some people can't prove that because they don't know, and they're believers, and that's fine. People say you can't. You definitely can prove that Jesus is who he says he is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to the point where if the case was presented in a court, they would rule that it happened, and not a guilty or not guilty, but that it was true. The fact that he lived and died the way that he said he did and ascended into heaven. He was seen by over 500 people after he was publicly executed, and there was a witness to that. This is recorded very, 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 very carefully in history, extra-biblically, outside of the Bible. Not that the Bible is not a good source, because it absolutely is, but here's the point. Jesus is who he says he is, and he came to die to save you for the next life, but he also came to die to free you from this one. And here's one of the biggest testimonies that I can give you. I used to be an angry man. I used to be an impatient man. I used to be a hot-headed man. I used to be easily frustratable. I used to yell. I used to be able to raise my voice. I used to be able to be living in different kinds of sin. I used to be depressed. I used to be discouraged. I used to be suicidal. I used to be filled with anxiety. If you don't know Christ and you know those things, you probably know the bondage that I'm talking about. The feeling that there is no way to get out of those things. And without Christ, there isn't. Without Christ, you are a slave to those things. And that's a truth that's very difficult, but that I want you to know. You are a slave to anger, yelling, impatience, malice, wrath, depression, all of those things. You can improve yourself a little bit. That you can go and read all the self-help books you want. I've read a lot of them. Some of them help. The Power of Habit, Atomic Habit, all these different books. They'll give you good tips. You can grow, but you will never have victory without him. And I can tell you that from personal experience and from the testimony of millions of men, dozens of whom and women that I know personally. You will find that freedom in Christ. You won't find it somewhere else. I'm not talking about growth. I'm talking about freedom. I'm talking about total and complete freedom, because he came and he nailed that to the cross and he put it to death. Likewise, reckon ye also yourselves be dead indeed unto sin, but alive unto God through Jesus Christ our Lord. The word says, do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Christ is there, and he wants to free you from those things. I'm very, very, very thankful that I met him at the age that I did. I wish I'd have met him younger. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me however you can. You can DM me on Twitter. You can leave comments below this stream. You can reach out to me however you can. You can shoot us an email, support@cryptojebb.com. My wife, Sarah, who does the emails, will forward it to me, and I will do my very best to get back to you. That's the purpose of this channel, is to teach you financial sovereignty, but ultimately it's to share the gospel, which I have learned. And I know a lot of you guys won't like it, but it's the fact, and that's the way it's going to be. Club DeFi got some really cool. We got some really cool announcements coming out on that relatively soon. Anyway, guys, really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. I love sharing my testimony with you because I have been freed from a number of things that I tried to get free from for a decade or more. And I know I'm only 22, but I've been trying to be free of anger, impatience, frustration, irritability, all these different things since I was very young. Had no freedom whatsoever until I met Christ and he gave it to me. Anyway, really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. That is going to wrap it out for today's stream. Before we go, I'll just read a little bit of chat. We got Hope Locating LLC in chat. You are so much appreciated. That one hits a little bit close to home. My sister's staying with us. That's her. Shout out to her. Eveliz Diaz, I've been mispronouncing your name for about 5 years. So apologies for that. Still got to figure that out. But are you still doing CT2A? CT2A is a antiquated retired product, but Club DeFi is taking its place, and that will be coming back out relatively soon. Matthew 5:9, blessed be the peacemakers. Right after that, it says in Matthew 11:12, blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you and say all manner of evil things against you, for you are my followers. Be thankful, be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. For all the believers out there that are persecuted for the faith. Will you make Sunday videos again? I will. I will. Lots of viewers today. Smush the likes. Smash the likes, guys. Really appreciate it. Eveliz Diaz. Oh, I did get it right. Oh, good. How did you get to know all the biblical stuff? Were you a missionary? I had people that poured into me and discipled me and ministered to me, and I read the Word. I read the Word every single day. I memorize Scripture every single day. I want to. The Word says in Psalm 19:11, you can go and read it yourself. The word have I hid in mine heart that I might not sin against thee. It says in 2 Timothy 3:16 and 17, all Scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. That's what I want. I want to be perfected in the likeness of Christ so that I can be walking in the perfection that he had. I'm not saying I'm perfect because the word also says if any of you say that they are perfect and have not sinned, then they are a liar and the truth is not in them. That's not what I'm saying. But I do want to be perfected into the likeness of Christ, that I can move forward in freedom over sin, in the newness of life, and that new man that the Word talks about. All right. Guys, I'm over time. I got to go. Really appreciate all of you tuning in. Before we go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video.